Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I'm Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is the gentleman from the view from the Hammersmith end. I have Alex, I have Matt, and I have Kamal. Kamal was not at this recent match, but he watched it, so we'll talk about it with him as well. This should be a good episode. We're going to be looking back at a Fulham victory, actually two in a row at home, which is a good thing, guys, and we'll talk about get your thoughts on it. So if you are watching live, thank you for watching live. I'm live on X, live on Facebook, and live on YouTube, which is a good thing. And if you want to listen to the podcast, it is exclusive on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Okay. Before we go on any further, Kamal, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Very frustrated with everything in the game and the team.
Okay.
Good. I was organising the missus' birthday party on Saturday evening, which is why I just listened.
Okay.
I almost dropped the cake in the.
That wouldn't have been good. Come on.
Minute, so 83rd minute. No, it wouldn't have been good.
Okay. Good stuff. Alex, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Russ. All good, thank you.
Good. Well, listen, I look forward to getting your views of the match, and of course, I always look forward to talking to Matt. Matt, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Russ. Always good to be talking on the back of a win.
It is, and let's not waste any time. Let's get to it. So, just give me your overall thoughts on what you watched. You and Alex were at the match, so just share with me just overall view of. Again, it was pouring rain. It didn't matter. We got all 3 points, and they actually put in a performance I wasn't expecting. Matt, your thoughts?
I thought we were excellent. The stats that I looked at afterwards actually slightly surprised me because they were even more lopsided than it felt at the time. You know, we had 24 shots.
Yeah,
that's insane. And you consider that among those there were some chances that we didn't. Kevin at one point was clean through and forgot the ball. There were lots of moments that we could have scored with, and it was a huge relief. Like, what a difference a goal makes. It would have been a day of criminal frustration if we hadn't converted the win. If you get the win, it feels like a good dominant performance. And I thought, Marco's choices off the bench weren't exactly the ones that we were hollering for. Josh King had felt a very strong attacking prospect, but this felt like a day of great progress for Emile Smith-Rowe, for our wide options, for Raul Jimenez. Of all the people to score, he's the guy we need to be scoring the goals in the next 2 months. It was a great day at the office.
Okay, and I would agree with that. And Alex, I'll go to you. And my first thought watching the match and watching Emile Smith-Rowe, I think of you right away. So this for me was what we were hoping to see from Emile Smith-Rowe. I actually think, and we'll talk about this during the show, I think playing him with Iwobi in the middle, I think that's a factor in all this. But I do think that for whatever reason, you saw a different version of Emile Smith-Rowe. But just give me your overall thoughts on what you watched.
Yeah, I mean, so I totally agree with Matt. I think a really good performance. The key thing was getting that winning goal. I think this game might prove really pivotal in our season. I think, there's a few factors here. I think we'd lost 5 out of the last 6 in the league. And only, in that it was Wolves, bottom of the league, that we'd actually beat. And in that period, you've got the 2 pretty poor, underwhelming Carabao Cup performances as well. Also, we got Spurs away and then Man City coming up. So if we hadn't have got a win here, this could be looking really, really bleak. And also we've got the issue of kind of a rejuvenated Forest under Dyche, West Ham starting to pick up points under Nuno. We'd have been looking at, we'd have been kind of level with the relegation side. I think we'd been out of the relegation zone on goal difference. So I just think this was a massive game. I also think actually this dragged Sunderland into, this is one of my strange theories, but I think this drags Sunderland back into, relegation conversations.
It does. It absolutely does.
And the main thing is, I think they've got Bournemouth, Man City, and Liverpool next, and after that, 7 players going off to AFCON. So
great point.
They could be below us by kind of mid-January.
Bournemouth and Man City sound like a problem, but Liverpool have how many have they lost? Maybe that's lost 9 of the last 11 or something in the Premiership. So
maybe that's 3 points.
It's a gimme.
So guys, Matt, I want to get your thoughts on it, then I'll go to Kamal. Just talking about opening thoughts. What surprised me is, and I said this on the post-match show, I'm not going to lie, I think I believe the hype a little bit, and I've watched Sunderland play, and have not been impressed. This is before the match, but because of how Fulham played, I had predicted a Sunderland victory, and really not factoring in really how Sunderland play. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I knew they were going to play 5 at the back, and we struggle at it, but they were underwhelming, and I don't want to hear that it's about them. This is about Fulham playing that they were underwhelming, Matt.
Yep, I agree. Look, I think I think their fans, in fairness, a bit like when we played Wolves and the team sheet came out, and a lot of the Wolves fans in the comments, you can always tell, the Wolves fans couldn't believe what was going on at the end of, at the end of their manager's reign there. Obviously, there's a lot more credit in the bank for Labrie, the Sunderland manager, but the big thing that the Sunderland fans were nervous about was getting overwhelmed in midfield, and so it came to pass, right? And going into this game, I would say the most lauded player in the Premier League this season has been Granit Xhaka for his impact and dominance. Honestly, I hardly noticed him. I thought he got
I didn't see him
continuously outmuscled and by Berger, who I thought was excellent, quietly sort of very good, and outthought and out. He just wasn't able to run around the pitch with Alex Iwobi, who was dropping deep to come and get it. And I had a bet on it before the game for a number of fouls that Granit Xhaka would give away, because I thought he'd get so close to Josh King and be fouling him the whole time. He couldn't get near him. He didn't get near him to foul him. So from when you go through games, quite often, Russ, you do the whole who won the coaches battle. I thought Marco. I think Marco absolutely destroyed his opposite number here, and all credit to him, because we'll come on to it with the substitutions, but they weren't all the choices I would have made. The starting lineup was the one I would have gone for.
Right.
Whether or not we keep Kevin ahead of Chukwueze in the next game, we'll see. But I thought this was pretty much, with Lukic suspended, the only team we could pick. So I was pleased it worked out so well.
It worked out really well, and I'm glad that you went there, because listen, I've been critical of Marco with his lack of change. And Matt, I actually posed this on the post-match show to Tony Gold. I'm going to pose it to you the same way. Do you consider the substitutions that Marco made in the second half as a plan B? Because it's still like for like, but it changed how Fulham played. Is it a plan B, or is it just a change that worked?
It's a great question. I think they're different. So I think Chukwueze is a change that he's just got a very different approach to Kevin, right? Chukwueze is someone who I think was able to take advantage. I think Kevin had done, his end product clearly wasn't there, and he fluffed his lines. But if he'd scored one of his 3 chances in the first half, I think we'd have been saying actually he was running them ragged. In the first half, I think he tired out their right back. By the time Chukwueze came on, he was able to, run at him pretty hard, and his crossing and his final ball was really good. The thing I think made a big difference to both Smith Rowe and Chukwueze coming on was actually Sessegnon, and it's something we've learned with this spell. If you watch the highlights back, it was very obvious being there in the ground, but Sessegnon was occupying that inside left channel. The ball that he played to Harry Wilson when he dragged it wide, the shot that Sessegnon had where it wasn't a cross, it wasn't a shot,
right?
It was a bit of both. If you look at the cross, Sessegnon is one of the guys in the box for the cross that Chukwueze puts into Raul. Sessegnon pushed forward, and it allowed Smith Rowe to go beyond. So for the first time, it's felt like in ages we were seeing Smith Rowe go far beyond the striker. So he was the one pulling it back and, doing cutbacks for Raul and for Wilson. There was a great block by, I think, their left back from Harry Wilson before we scored that would have been a goal. If that was a deliberate move, which you have to assume it is, where Marco said, look, Smith Rowe and Chukwueze, you go on, and Sessegnon, you push forward. Not only was that, it was perfect for this game, but I think the thing to watch is when Robinson comes back into the team, which I still think a fit Anthony Robinson versus a fit Ryan Sessegnon, I would pick Robinson.
Okay.
But an attacking substitution could be you bring on Sessegnon for Robinson and say, look, go and occupy that left back when we're defending, but sort of left forward when we're attacking role. So it was a change that worked. I think it was an upgrade. I didn't think it at the time. I was devastated that we were losing Josh King, but I'm delighted to be able to say out loud, I think Emile Smith-Rowe is playing really well here, which I said a couple of times.
That's great, and I see Alex's face. It's like, oh, Smith-Rowe, but but Alex, even you have to give it to him.
Yeah, he played well, but I'm gonna, I do think that Smith-Rowe wasn't the difference. Like Matt said, King played really well. We were like, really, we're bringing him off. He's been really impactful. Smith-Rowe did have a good game, played really well, much more neat and tidy.
What about Iwobi? I had Iwobi as the man of the match.
Well, so for me, this is my point, right? Chukwueze came on and completely turned the game around. I mean, when I say turn the game around, we were already the dominant side, but we were so much more dangerous. Everything he did was incredibly positive. He was really just causing them so much trouble. So for me, I mean, it's a bit early for man of the match, but Chukwueze gets man of the match because he was by far the best player on the pitch by a million miles in the little time he had. And I don't feel that Smith-Rowe's performance kind of took us to another level. I think, Matt's point around Sessegnon is interesting and the kind of tactical position.
I'm glad you brought that up.
But I think the big difference post substitutes, because let's not forget we dominated and created chances before that, was just we had Chukwueze in absolutely outstanding, devastating form. He was brilliant.
Okay, excellent. Kamal, how you doing? Opening thoughts on the match.
Can you see me? Because my screen's gone black here. Can you?
Yes.
Frozen.
Okay.
Actually, we have frozen Kamal.
Oh, am I frozen? Well, this
you are.
Perhaps a better way to look. I'll say my piece and then I'll restart and come back on. But
sure.
I just what was I thinking about the match? I mean, the worst thing is I was very jealous that the boys were there, and it showed me that you cannot beat being at the match because you can look at who you want to rather than follow the TV crew's direction, which is just following players that have the ball all the time. And I couldn't look at what I wanted to. So the live experience was very elevated to me. But I was also laughing when it started really thundering outside, and I thought of Alex and Matt, each probably munching on a pie. And there's that bit on the edge where sometimes the rain can drip over. Those guys at the front. I was having a little chuckle because the hammy end stand isn't quite as a luxurious umbrella as a riverside, so I was chuckling. I did have conversations with Ben, or Ben and Holly, and he was messaging me while I was setting out the table. Cooking a pie and stuff like that. And he said it was very surprising because we made a team that is, bowling over and very strident, looked very ordinary.
Yeah.
And, and then as Matt said, I saw the stats afterwards. It just looked like we could have scored more goals than just one goal. So
I think that's maybe a little bit of a disappointment, Kamal, that it took a goal, but like we were talking, Matt, on the post-match show, and you guys were there, so I'm curious your thoughts on this. One goal was going to win this, the way the match was being played. But let me ask you this. Were you disappointed that it took them so long to score that goal? I thought the goal was inevitable, but should they have scored more based on the amount of shots that they had?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think on another day, Wilson converts one of his two extremely good chances. I was going to say
those are very good opportunities.
But and Wilson's on great form at the moment. He's on such a high. He captained Wales, scored a hat trick against a key rival. That North Macedonia are not exactly a football titan, but they're a good side.
Right.
And Wales needed to win that, and he turned up and was captain fantastic. I thought he was excellent for what it's worth, Wilson. You'd expect him to bury one of those. You'd expect Kevin to score one of his two, or I would argue three with the header, very good opportunities. So look, it was a bit frustrating that it took that long. You're right, though, Russ. It felt like one goal they wouldn't have anything to come back at us with. They made a couple of substitutions that made absolutely zero difference.
Right.
I think the sympathy came. Look, you could see Raul looked exhausted. Like there was one moment when the ball came to him on the edge of the box. and his first shot got blocked, and he had that thing where he's almost too tired to work out what to do, so he just tries to shoot again, and he tried to pass it to Wilson, just played it straight to one of their players. He looked like someone who was running on fumes, and the sympathy comes why I'm not that frustrated it took that long.
Yep.
From the fact that in any other situation we'd have subbed him off.
This is true.
For Muniz, with half an hour, 35 minutes to go. It's why I was so delighted with the goal that he scored, because it was the great finish from obviously just a phenomenal cross. But, when you're that tired and you're that strung out and you got back from Mexico, 36 hours later, I just real pro, just delighted to get the win, because we need to get through these games and to get some points. And we're winning the games that we have to win at the moment, which is a great quality.
Exactly. And it's funny because we really didn't do that last season. We're doing it this season. And I think in a way, I actually, maybe that's what they need. And then they'll start beating the bigger clubs again, like they did last season. But I think it's important that they're winning these matches against these teams. And to Alex's point, I actually agree with him. They have 7 players going to the African Cup of Nations. I've listened to a ton of talk from the Sunderland perspective, and I think they're about to go in the opposite direction. I do. So it's a good point.
But they were not good. They were bad.
They were bad. Mm-hmm. But Matt, I think it's a little bit of them. Like you said, their talk is that they're disappointed that they went to 5 at the back, the talk I've been listening to. But I think in another way, if we don't give Fulham credit, I think that's unfair too.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I think we probably need to do a little bit of that. A lot of the Fulham faithful have been talking about how atrocious we were against Everton. And I think we were very bad against Everton, but also Everton were really good, right?
You got to give them credit, right?
You got to give a little bit of credit. So I'd agree with that.
Exactly. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's now talk about what you guys were discussing before the match began. And Alex and Matt, you guys were there together. So Alex, I'll go to you. What were your thoughts before the match? Could talk about the starting 11, your confidence level. What was the feel like at Craven Cottage in the Hammy end before the match? Because there was a lot of pressure on this match.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the main talking point was this is a massive game with a couple of difficult games coming up. Although Spurs away isn't always that intimidating at the moment. So hopefully that'll be okay. But yeah, it was just that, this is really a massive game that we really had to win. I think, I mean, that was the main focus. I actually felt really confident. I don't know why. And probably some of that confidence abated slightly after the first 5 minutes, because the one thing I would say about Sunderland is they came out looking full of energy, and they were closing down the ball.
Yes, they did.
Big and physical. I was like, oh God, this these look sharper than us. And I think for that reason, in a sense, that doubles down on the idea that this was a really good Fulham performance, because it wasn't like they turned up, bad day at the office, came out on the wrong foot. They came out really up for it. And I think just that, tactical ability, kind of the lineup, plus some great play by people like Josh King. I think his energy and intensity in that first half was really good. Harry Wilson, again, as Matt said, he's just been so influential. He looks like our most dangerous player every game at the moment. So I think all credit goes to Fulham on the day. I think Sunderland came out with confidence, and we basically took that away from them. And given that how good they've been this season so far, that's an impressive feat. So yeah,
right. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because one of my keys to the match was that Fulham needed to match the intensity of Sunderland. Now, I wouldn't say that. It's funny, I was thinking about it. Matching the intensity would be basically playing as intense as them. I don't think Fulham did that. I think that they just took control of the match.
Absolutely.
I think they took that away from them. In a different manner. It's not like they went at them. They just took that control away, and they had none. And that to me is a testament to Marco and the players, that they were able to take away that intensity. They did it again in the second half, Matt. I'm sorry, Alex, and we'll talk about that too. Same situation.
Yeah.
They were playing with that intensity, and again, eventually took it back.
Absolutely.
And that's what's impressive about this victory. Matt, over to you. I want to get your thoughts on the talk before the match, and I'm assuming it was really like Alex said, amongst the supporters, really tense going into it.
Yeah, very tense. I think a lot of people sort of waiting to see what the reaction was going to be to the Everton. I think most people acknowledge that was our worst performance of the season. No matter Everton's role in it, I think every result we've had so far this season has been one that you say that just about figures. We're basically losing away. Apart from a last-minute Rodrigo Muniz equaliser against Brighton, we've lost every away game. And we're winning the home games, right? So apart from Man U, who are having quite a good season, and Arsenal, who we only lost 1-0 to, this felt like we really need to win this. And
Yep.
I agree with everything you guys both say. I think the way that our intensity came across, because we're not a blood and thunder team.
No.
I think, whereas Sunderland, I think, like if we tried to get into an arm wrestle with them, they would have loved that. What we did was I thought our mobility was so good. I thought Iwobi. Russ, you gave him man of the match. I absolutely see that I think he was the person they found hardest to control. I thought
Right.
King, Alex talked about his energy, but Sessegnon, was back and forth. You look at Wilson and Kevin and how much they broke through the Sunderland lines. I can't remember a game ever that we've played, apart from maybe Burton at home when we won 6-0 a few years ago. Shout out to Abubakar Kamara. When we had more through one-on-one situations, and it was because their shape was like a big block that didn't really respond to our movement, and they ended up with overloads all over the pitch. They
Right.
had very immobile, Enzo Lefebvre, I thought looked like a central midfielder playing left wing. He was absolutely hopeless, and he was wearing the Jack and Loz blog, which I don't know whether you guys read, is very good.
Yep.
He,
Yes.
they were like, it was very strange to play against a winger who was wearing a wetsuit under his kit. 'Cause he'd gone for full long sleeves and
Yeah.
leggings, and it's like, it wasn't cold, it was just wet. Anyway, so I think our mobility was the thing that gave us the edge, and I thought that was just something that we kept up, and Chukwueze and Smith Rowe added to.
Okay, excellent. Kamal, what were you thinking before the match? You and I have talked a lot, and
I'm angry, super angry. I mean, I don't want to spend my time ranting. But
okay,
if I could only
ahead,
sound a little bit like Tony Gold, I'd be a happy man. But
okay,
that's not my style. But I mean, it relates to everything we're hearing is that how did the players go into the match? How did Marco go into the match? And they literally must. The talk is coming on, and well done for you to begin this conversation about
sure.
What's going on, about the contract, about him keeping his head low on the side of the pitch. Let's not kid around. This hasn't been a comfortable Fulham side. This has been a really downcast manager. And if we understand all the players are really, really man-managed by Marco, who they kind of see him as a father figure. So if he's walking around the pitch with his nose in the earth, they're going to be playing, with the side eye, wondering what's going on. And, me and you talked about this. He's been offered a contract. He hasn't taken the contract.
Yep.
But the problem is who's going to pick up Marco if he's constantly losing week after week, and he got smashed by Everton. So I think it may be, our wonderful friend Jorge Mendes, who runs Mourinho, Ronaldo, and some of the big Portuguese talent around the world, who must have said to him, "Hey, if you keep going like this, I won't be able to sell you to Burton." So some fire must be risen.
Well, what's interesting, Kamal,
was I as angry as Tony Gold? Did I sound as angry as Tony?
No, you don't. But I will tell you, the issues that you're talking about, many of them are still there. My concerns are still there. But what's good about the fact that we can talk about the match itself is that all that was put aside, and he was able to manage a team and get the 3 points and have the players play for them. So the fact that you can have a manager that can do that, I'll give him a lot of credit here, with all hanging on over his head, hanging over the club. And I'm saying that there's a cloud, and the cloud is this contract situation, his status. They could put that all aside and get all 3 points. That, to me, is the best thing to come out of this. And I think they can build on that. But the cloud's still there. All that is still in play. It's still there. But they just need to take care of business on match day. And that, to me, is what I saw come out.
I don't think he wants to really finish as badly as he did when Everton to Hull and bouncing off to to Greece, I think he really realizes,
Well,
that he's going to go higher. No,
I think there's a pecking order thing here as well, and that I think a little while ago, when the uncertainty around him came about, he was probably one of the top two. If you run a good top half Premier League team, you go and get him.
yep.
I think he's behind Glasner, and I think he's behind Iraola at Bournemouth.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think he should be, right? The reality is, whilst he's frustrated with some of our transfers, he's not good at bringing through young players.
Nope.
He's not good at squad rotation. And, our system has stayed exactly the same, apart from switching out, Iwobi for Sasa Lukic. So Suhail, by the way,
He's very rigid, Matt.
He's very rigid, and I don't see a way that Lukic comes back in until AFCON. And I think when AFCON comes around, I think we'll have a new central midfielder. I think that will be, part of Marco's negotiation, and what the stalemate is over, how much we're going to spend in January, and am I going to get my players?
Sure, but again,
sorry, the other thing I wanted to say is that Raul is driving me mad because I want a new striker. I think Raul is, he's doing my head in, but to give
you can't fault the effort. Come on.
No. But to give consideration, I think the day before he just came back in from Texas, and he just tried to do everything. So I want to give him some praise.
Yeah, you should definitely.
Just a double, triple effort that he put into that match.
It's a good point.
He's playing so hard.
No, listen. I'm glad that you said that, Kamal. But like you said before the match, I understand where you're thinking, because my head's still there too, and I hope that this all plays out sooner than later. But something tells me it's going to be later, and this is going to continue to go on. But as long as they show up and the team plays and Marco shows up, and I think Marco realizes it's in his best interest that Fulham can continue to win, because it'll raise his value on what he wants. So I guess we can all use each other, and we'll see how it all plays out. Anyways,
I think maybe offering him a contract will not be, I hate to say this on a public podcast, maybe the thing that will take his edge away. I think we need to keep his edge up right now. Maybe
because honestly, we need him concentrating on the team. But again, do I expect him to change how he manages Fulham? Absolutely not. And that's also my issue. But I could do a show on all that. But I don't want to. I want to concentrate on the match, Kamal. So, but I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's what you're thinking. It's what I'm thinking. So I'm glad that you brought that up. All right, guys, let's now talk about the first half. And Matt, I'll go back to you. We've already discussed earlier that Sunderland came out with this intensity, and I think Fulham took that away by their play, and I'm glad that we've talked about it. What's interesting here, and I want to focus on this, because it's not like there were all these opportunities to score in the first half, but I think the one that really stands out to me, and how close Fulham were to really taking this match away from Sunderland, was the opportunity from Harry Wilson. I know it was not, you guys probably didn't get the best view of it, but that was indicative of, I think, the opportunities that were to come. And I'm going to go to Alex in a second. We'll talk about the unfortunate Kevin opportunities that he had, but I want to get your thoughts about Wilson. Very close to scoring there.
He was. Look, they're obviously when you don't get the goal at the end of it, any praise is going to be a bit Pyrrhic. But I was really pleased with the fact that if you look at the replay, I think Wilson has about 4 options there with him. He's got King, Raul was up with him, and I think Iwobi actually might have been the other player on the other side, or it might have been Kevin, but I think it might have been Iwobi.
Yeah.
We were attacking with real purpose and intensity and intent. I absolutely fine with Wilson taking the shot there, even if he missed it. The pass through to King would have been, with hindsight, maybe the better option, but it's so hard to execute. Whereas we've seen Wilson cut inside, curl at bottom corner so many times that, it just wasn't Harry's day in the end. But I was delighted with the way that we carved them open. I felt a bit sorry for Sander Berger, who still doesn't have his first assist in the Premier League for Fulham, and he's been robbed. That was his through ball.
That was.
He also played Kevin through. He obviously played Josh King through for the goal that was disallowed wrongly against Chelsea. So I do feel a bit sorry for Sander because he is contributing. He's just not quite,
Yeah.
being supported by his teammates.
Okay, very good. All right. Over to you, Alex. Again, there was a dominance of Fulham, but it was also, like I said, they couldn't get that goal. But what was frustrating, and I think it frustrated Tony Gold, were the two opportunities from Kevin. The first one especially. You're one-on-one with a goalkeeper. You need to be doing better there. And I think he might be pressing a little bit. I don't think he lacks confidence, but I think this guy needs a goal in the worst way. I want to get your thoughts about the opportunities here.
Yeah, I mean, so the big thing about those two opportunities, where he's running through, the one where he forgets the ball and the one where he does the very unconvincing shot, is the fact that he didn't look fully committed on either one. You look at that Wilson thing that Matt's just talked about.
Oh yeah, that was all.
He flies straight. He's so direct with his intentionality towards goal. Kevin didn't have any of that. He had so much space and room, and it was like he was, I don't know, running through treacle a little bit, and you could see that half of that was in his mind. He was overthinking it. There was nothing convincing about the way he ran or the finish. I do think he's lacking a bit of confidence. I think it's encouraging that he's still getting opportunities in the Premier League when he's not fully full of confidence, because it's players that completely disappear that you need to worry about. But I do think he's lacking a bit of confidence. Yeah, there were two big chances. I mean, the header, at least it was on target, down low and hard, fair enough, yeah, but I thought on both those chances where he's running away with the ball towards goal, he just did not look like he thought he was going to score, and you have to believe you're going to score if you're going to do that, So, yeah, bit of a shame. And yeah, I think all of us probably started to think that the failure to convert these chances were going to cost us. So it did feel like a little surprise when that wasn't the case.
Okay. Come on. What were you thinking about watching this first half? Because Fulham were by far the better side, but it had nothing to show for it.
It's just frustrating. I mean, and I like everybody. I mean, I like everybody's faith in Marco, but hey, I mean, it's like you can't make a shirt white by rinse and repeating. We got the same story every week, and I'm kind of at a turning point because we're back here. We'll have one or two good games. I'm a bit worried that we're going to get. But I mean, other teams, they know who he's going to bring on. They know who's going to come on the last 30 minutes, and they're going to know the same story. And we're talking about, the other great young managers we have. They are unpredictable. And Marco, I'm sorry, is predictable. I felt sorry to see Raul struggling so much. I also, just a word for Kevin. Kevin must be pretty well aware that his manager is not starting him, and maybe he's being forced to start him. And a lack of confidence for a player that good, and I've seen his reel online, and the reels can always be made to look good, but he just doesn't seem like somebody who's very confident.
Oh, that's very interesting. No,
and you see Wilson come back, scoring 3 goals in the week.
Yeah,
scored a triple against North Macedonia. Confidence is everything. That guy was like a seagull flying home. He was just going all the time.
Yeah, no, listen, Harry Wilson is a confidence player. Alex, I'll go back because I know you follow him a great deal, right? And what's interesting about him is that we can have matches where we're not really talking about Harry Wilson. That I will say, and I think you'll admit this, he goes missing, right? All of a sudden, he's playing for his national team. He's flying, and then he comes flying with us. Why can't we get that each and every match from Harry Wilson? Why does it seem like it's Brentford and a couple, and some other match? I hate to go there, but what do you make of that?
I mean, I personally think, he just needs to play a lot. Like, I think pretty much every game recently, he's been one of our best players. He's been the player that looks most like scoring almost every game, and he's created plenty as well. And that's because this is the longest kind of run he's had for a while. He had a couple of injuries last season. And it's hard, we could talk about wingers and what would, if Lukic had been in, and Iwobi was playing a wide, Wilson's play starts to get in the threat. I don't know, especially with Chukwueze playing as well as he did. I'm not sure, but my feeling is that Wilson has nailed that shirt down for the time being, and
I would agree with that.
He's just playing really well and showing what a great footballer he is. I've always had so much faith in him because I do follow Wales as well, and I just watch him kind of step up in those international arenas, and he's just a brilliant footballer. He's creative, he's imaginative, he's confident. I think the issue with he's maybe had throughout some of his Fulham career is he's had those periods where he's lost his place in the team. He doesn't get a run, then he gets injured when he starts to come good, and it hasn't really just rolled for him. But right now, he's playing every game, and he's playing brilliantly, I think, in pretty much every game.
Okay, very good there. All right, guys, let's talk about halftime and what you were thinking. And Matt, I'll go to you. We're at halftime, and it's 0-0. And I got to be honest with you, I've seen these too many times. As I said, Tony and I were talking about halftime. You're thinking it's going to be a goal, and the fact that they did not score in that first half, I've seen this too many times. Even though Sunderland were poor, but it had a lot to do with Fulham, I could just feel that there was always going to be a threat. And we saw that at the beginning of the second half. Okay, that opening stage, that was a serious threat. So that was always there. What were you thinking in halftime? Were you thinking, was that going through your mind? And were you also, between you and Alex, were you thinking about that? And also, were you thinking changes needed to happen at some point?
So I shared exactly your nervousness. If you don't score while you're on top like that, our XG at half time was something like 1.5, 2.
Which is good.
It was very high for a we're completely dominant in that first half. And to your point, you worry that when you're completely dominant, you've got nothing to show for it, that the other team is just going to hit you with a sucker punch. And they very nearly did, 8 seconds into the second half.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the closest they came to scoring. I wasn't thinking we needed to make substitutions, not least because I didn't know, of the player you'd say was being probably the most ineffective was Kevin. We're all of an understanding that Marco sort of has to play him because he's our record transfer, and we need to play him into form. You said he needs a goal. If he gets a goal or he gets an assist and has a great game, you can imagine him being a confidence form player who could go on a little run. We have to invest in him to deliver on that. So I didn't want him to come off. The only thing I was nervous about, candidly, was there was no way I saw that Raul Jimenez lasting 90 minutes. I assumed we had maybe another 20 minutes of him, and then we were going to have to go to some convoluted plan B, which was either going to be Jonah Kusiasari, who Marco just clearly does not rate.
No.
And on the limited evidence we've seen of him, I can understand why. Or Chukwueze up front, or Wilson up front, which would be my preference. That's not my preference.
I'm not saying it's a preference. I'm just saying.
No, but yeah, I mean, Traore obviously is one of the plans that we have, and I'm more of a Traore fan than most, in that I think he works hard. I think he actually does give us something a bit different. But I thought that the game on Saturday for our wingers, I thought it was a great day for Wilson. He was good, as Alex said. He was a solid 7.5. I think the big thing that made a difference for him, and Chukwueze was effectively signed to replace Harry Wilson. Right. We nearly sold Harry Wilson. Chukwueze is the left-footed wide right forward that I think is seen as a bit more dynamic. He's definitely quicker than Wilson. Because of the Lukic suspension and the move to put Iwobi into central midfield, Kevin has ended up being our only left winger.
Yeah.
Right. With Robinson out, you can't play Sessegnon there.
Right.
And so it was interesting. Chukwueze, I don't think, for Villarreal certainly, and AC Milan, he didn't normally play on the left wing, and he's normally coming on the right wing to then cut inside.
But this worked.
That cameo was phenomenal, and if you're looking at it, you're saying, well, okay, well, let's play him there then. That's great news for Harry Wilson.
Yeah, of course.
That is Harry Wilson suddenly doesn't have this guy who we're probably going to take the option of, breathing down his neck. He's got, a bit more rotation. It allows Iwobi to stay in central midfield, which I think we should do wherever we can. I would probably bring Lukic back for the Man City game, just because we're going to get, we're not going to have a lot of the ball in that game. But I thought that was, it was a really interesting change in the squad makeup. It felt like we had two left wingers, Iwobi and Kevin, and one of them is playing central midfielder. And then we have three right wingers in Wilson, Chukwueze, and Adama. And I think that's changed a bit.
And Sess as well, if Robinson gets back fit.
And then Sessegnon. I thought Sessegnon was. If you go back and watch the highlights again, the second half in particular, when he was trying to get into those, we were pressing for the goal. He was the player who was causing their defence real problem. They just didn't know who was meant to be picking up because he was the left back, but he was playing next to Raul. And they were at that point, Raul had absolutely exhausted. So one of the things you could see from our seats at the Hammersmith end, whenever it went out of play, Dan Ballard, who was their sort of big bruiser defender, he was basically kneeling on the floor between every stoppage because he was absolutely exhausted. Like he and Raul had just been fighting the entire game.
Exactly.
And he was just absolutely out on his feet, and I think it showed in his sort of brain fade for the goal a bit. He didn't know what to do, and I think that's in part because Raul had knackered him out.
Right.
Sessegnon running around him did not help.
No, and that's great. Like, and I'm glad that you guys are talking, Matt, that you're bringing up the Sessegnon thing because, I didn't expect to see that. And like you said, that made a difference. It's like they, whatever tweak, maybe it is a tweak, whatever tweak that they made with Sessegnon obviously paid off. But I'm glad that you brought up the whole thing with Ballard and Raul because in the end, it's like a heavyweight fight. In the end, who gets the knockout? Thankfully, it was Raul, but they were going at it. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I think it eventually paid off. That's a good point. All right, Alex, your thoughts at halftime?
Just the big thing was that we haven't converted chances. Matt did tell me the XG of Sunderland, which was close to naught. It was something like 0.02.
Yeah, it was
0.03.
0.03. There you go. So that was a real surprise. Not least because Leno had made one good little save from Traore. I was like, surely there's more than a 1 in whatever that is, 50%, 1 in 50 chance of that going in. But that was the big thing. It's like we haven't converted our chances. But I still honestly felt quite calm. I did about halftime. I didn't think Sunderland were doing much, and I didn't think they were a threat. And I thought we were playing well and creating stuff. And I just thought, they're attacking the hammy end this half. I felt pretty confident. Halftime was happy days. I was given a nice pret-a-manger chocolate bar as well, which was very tasty. I don't want to do a plug for that, but it was a nice little surprise gift from another one of the fellow cottagers.
Nice. Okay. Come on, what were you thinking at halftime? Come on, you there? Oh, he put himself on mute. Come on, you there? Yes. Oh, now he's on mute again. There we go.
Sound gone, but he was worried about the cake. Oh no, he's back. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was actually on Sunday. I was on Saturday. I was at halftime. I was putting an onion cake inside the oven and listening to the commentary. And I was switching over from 5 Live to the official Fulham commentary, which is
Gentleman Jim.
He's so downhearted when we're not scoring goals. God almighty, he sounds like, I shouldn't say it. He's so moaning. But when he celebrates, there's nobody who celebrates like him.
No. So,
and you got to, the one thing I've not heard is that, I mean, I know we hate talking about the other side, but you got to hand it to the Sunderland goalkeeper, Ras, how to deal with so many shots, so much attacking play, confusing as the main man Matt says, that we had a complete assault and a carousel of wingers playing out of position.
Right.
I thought he did really, really well, and so good for Sunderland.
He didn't have to, but none of them were big saves, though. I think, one of the things that concerns me is we don't look that much of a goal threat. We look very dominant, but it's not like he pulled off some worldies. Yeah. I'm also a bit sad, if I may, about the fact that we don't score long-range goals. I think the longest, all our goals are inside, I would say, the 6-yard box. Harry Wilson's one when he stroked it home the other day, was that Brentford? The one where he got Berger to stand out the way and he just rolled it into the corner. No, it wasn't Brentford. What was that one?
If we can only bring back Wolves.
Wolves.
I was thinking bring back Clint Dempsey, because that's what Clint Dempsey would do. I hate to go all the way back that far, but
we just don't score from this.
We're a great team, but
they want to walk it in. They literally want to walk it in. They want to. I mean, that's what they want to walk it in, and it's funny. So many goals are scored from outside the box, and we rarely are doing that. That's a good point.
No,
it's tick attack. It's all the Barcelona.
Oh, okay. Now we go back to
just want to say something very quick.
I've triggered him.
Just want to say something very quickly. It's just
Go ahead.
that Charlie in the Fulham box office, in the ticket office,
Yep.
helped me out this week, and he listens to the show.
Oh,
So
that's great.
I just want to give him a shout out to Charlie and the people in the box office because they're wonderful.
That's
great. Why don't you give and then explain to them what you've done? A slice of the onion cake that I don't want any part of, but it sounds, I'm sure, delicious.
Okay, I have to ask, what the hell is an onion cake? Because
my missus makes it. She made it. She took ages, but I have to set the oven up. I was scared that it was going to set alight, so I was pretty nervous.
Please never bring any onion cake to the cottage.
You're definitely getting some next week, man.
Oh, okay. I don't think I'm
going to make sure you take a bite out of that.
Of an onion cake. Okay. I'm sorry, Kamal. I'm sure your wife
makes
a lovely onion cake, but I'm not.
It's onion pie, so it's like a big.
Pie is different. Okay,
even bread with. It's actually really tasty. It's finished.
Okay. I believe you. Okay, enough of cake. Time to move on. Let's talk about the second half where everything actually happens. Alex, I'll go to you first. So, as I mentioned, and I know it's on. It's obviously all the way in the other side of the pitch, but like we're talking about, for whatever reason, Sunderland comes out strong again, right off the kickoff. Wonderful opportunity from Lefebvre, really. And then they had some pressure at that point on. What were you thinking? Very early stages of the second half. That again, because I'm thinking whether this little storm and then we're going to take control again, and that's exactly what ended up happening.
Yeah, I genuinely wasn't panicked. I mean, when the ball flashed past the post about 8 seconds after halftime, I had a little moment of panic. But as soon as I saw it hit the hoardings and not the back of the net, I thought we'll be rinse and repeat from the first half. I just couldn't see how Sunderland were going to change things up, and they really didn't. The other thing that Matt's mentioned, Sessegnon and the important role he played. It's also worth noting two of the big moments of that second half he was heavily involved in. That was a beautiful ball to Harry Wilson with the one he kind of wide, and also then Chukwueze did a brilliant little lay on to Sess, who then kind of did the cross shot thing. But again, he was really far advanced, creating problems, and I just thought that left hand side was really, really good. It just felt to me that we were so much the better side that the goal had to come. And I probably, if I'm honest, it was probably about 2 minutes before we finally scored that I decided I was wrong and it wasn't going to come. So, but yeah, for most of that half, I was just really convinced that we were going to do it.
Okay, good. Matt, over to you, because obviously the pivotal moment, and like I said, credit to the players and credit to Marco for making the change, bringing on Chukwueze and bringing on Smith Rowe. And as you said, you were at the time probably not in favor of it, but it ended up working well. Let's talk about before. I want to get your view before the change and after the change. And we could talk about the goals separately. What did you notice the big change?
I thought the biggest change in this game, and particularly after half-time, Berger was pressing much further up the pitch. So I think Marco had said to them, look, they are sitting deeper and deeper. They're not a threat on the break, right? Bassi was completely able to cope with Isidore in a sort of mobility contest, and Anderson I thought was excellent in sort of just orchestrating and organising, and he was there to make, there was one block he made that he needed to make. But I thought Berger pushed much further forward. There were a couple of times when Berger was the one actually closing down the goalkeeper, which we've never seen that before. Normally Berger is sort of rooted in front of the back four, and I think he and the rest of the team have been told to push further forward.
Okay.
I think that's what tired Josh King out. So it is fair to say, like with Josh King going off, I thought he'd been excellent. But in the first half, I thought he'd been a threat who, there was a very good back heel he played through to Wilson.
Yeah, fantastic.
He'd been, I thought, a live wire, and through whom a lot of our creativity came. I did think he faded out a little bit. He was like, there was a lot of running, and that was great, but some of it was down blind alleys a little bit. And for all of my absolute adoration for Josh King, which is unrelenting, he's not a big goal threat. We are now 11, 12 games into the Premier League, and he's had one goal which got disallowed wrongly, despite being the guy who's playing in the role behind the striker. It's the same number of goals as Emile Smith Rowe has from that same position. in the Premier League, and Smith Rowe has probably had a quarter of the game time, if that. So I was in favour of the change at the end of the game, but at the time I was not. I just, I was sad to see Josh King go, but I do understand it. I think Marco is doing the right thing by Josh King this season of rotating him out and not trying to get him to do 90 minutes.
Okay, I would like the 90 minutes, but I understand where you're coming on that. But Matt, I'll go right back to you because I want to talk about the goal. You guys got a good view of this, obviously, and it's funny because this pass from Chukwueze, and if you watch highlights of his time, you'll see passes like he does this. But this is an incredible pass, and just thankful that that Raul won his final battle, I guess, with Bala.
Yeah, and I thought it was incredible. It felt very unlike us, right? So we had been, cutbacks and extra tricks and the extra pass. This was quite an early cross. He dribbled at the defender. Again, Sessegnon is tucked in, so it's actually only one defender who's up against. And what that defender was expecting, I think, is that Chukwueze would take him on and skin him, which he'd done a couple of times. And so the early cross was quite a surprise. And it was just fabulous. And it was, again, another 6-yard box poacher's finish. If you think about it, it's very reminiscent of the goal that Smith Rowe scored against Man United, where he pokes in with his studs from 3 yards out. That ball, that time was by Iwobi. Just tremendous relief, and you could see the whole team. The whole team came running over to our corner that was scored right in front of us. Delighted for Chukwueze, delighted for Raul. Just collective relief. It was a great moment.
Okay, excellent. All right, come on. What were you thinking at the end of the match? Did you, after they scored the goal, do you think the match was won at that point?
I was thinking, wow. I mean, whatever we say about Jimenez, he's got some go. He just, refused to give up, and there was no plan B. I mean, the plan B, Marco's plan B is Rodrigo, but there was no plan B, and good for him because he shows. Because this is not a system he plays within the Mexico team. No. He gets a far more favourable service, and I don't know. I was quite relieved, but I didn't think I was kind of, me. I've been just moaning all week. I'm a bit of a moaner at the moment.
No, not at all.
Because of the way we're playing, I've been eating too much onion pie. I think that's what onion pie does to me.
Oh, here we go.
And I don't know. It was relief. I think like a tray of the chicken skewers, might have balled all over the table when it happened. But then I had to keep my passions kind of, a little bit rallied. You didn't come to the party, Alex. If you'd come to the party, you would have known all about this, So, but, the boys were here. That's my brother. Thank you very much.
Game changers your haircut. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So, but I was very relieved, like most Fulham fans are. Yep. And one goal. But listen, I mean, you guys are like Robbie Gibb and the BBC board. You've got to admit something's wrong. This is not very good, and things have to change. One goal, 24 goes on target. I don't want to elevate the way we're playing. We're not playing very well. We're not, and something is definitely rotten in the state.
Okay, well, again, come on. I'm not going to distragree with what you're saying. Okay, but I will
guys,
tell
I know you're my friends. But like, come on.
No.
Can't dress it up.
Listen, we've already had this talk a little bit that I think that there is something wrong. I think the cracks are still there. Everything you're saying is legit. But I do believe watching the match, I saw a team that was committed to winning and a manager that was committed to winning. And that right now, that's what Fulham really needs, in my opinion. It doesn't change anything because I think the big change needs to happen too. But if they can compartmentalize and still take it all on the pitch and still win matches, I think everything will work itself out, whatever that is. I know what I want it to be, and it's not what everyone wants it to be. you know, I think this situation with Marco will work itself out. I hope it's sooner than later, if you're asking me. But anyways, to end the show, guys, let's talk about the talk after the match. I guess we can go to man of the match. Matt, I told you my man of the match was Iwobi because I think right now it's going to be hard for me, and I think Marco is, you know, and again, it's going to tell me a lot about Marco when we play on Saturday night against Tottenham. Will he go back to Berga and Lukic? I say right now, hell no, please don't, because I think Iwobi should be central. I think he changes everything. I want to get your thoughts on man of the match and also my thoughts on Iwobi, because I think we're different with him in that role.
Yeah, I absolutely would have Iwobi starting midfield and therefore Lukic on the bench. Man of the match for me was Chukwueze.
Okay.
You know, even before the goal came, he was the person creating the chances. You know, maximum threat that they. You know, if you think about it, Wilson had a really good game, but actually Wilson towards the end of the game hit the only threat he was on goal in the center of the pitch. Right, we weren't crossing from the right at all. It was all coming down the Chukwueze side, and it was just belligerent. I mean, if I had a small tactical tweak, you know, based on knowledge of the opposition for Saturday, the big thing I would focus on would be getting the ball to Josh King and getting him to run at Palhinha and get him booked, because we all remember when Palhinha, you know, wonderful player for us that he was, if he got an early booking in the game, it completely impaired his capacity to be, you know, his sort of gung-ho self. You know, it was always if there's an early booking for Palhinha, you get about 70% of Palhinha rather than the 100% full ball.
That's a great point, Matt.
And I would get Josh King in there and I'd get him swan diving at every moment he could. Cynical that I am. So no, I would pick the same team. I probably would I'd be very serious in consideration of Chukwueze in for Kevin, but I would also sympathize with Kevin being given another run and you know, see how we go.
Okay, excellent. How about you, Alex? Who's your man of the match?
Yeah, my man of the match, Chukwueze. I thought he was totally brilliant. I can't believe we haven't heard the words "corridor of uncertainty." That ball was exactly in that place.
It
was beautiful. And you know, it wasn't the only thing he did. He was just sublime from the moment he got on. So positive, so brilliant. I would play him in the next game. I would, you know, I think there's something to be said for if a player plays well, show you know, give him the shirt because he's earned it. So
yeah. Let me ask you this, Alex, because again, one thing I like to do, I like to listen to the opposition podcast, right? Especially after the match, after we win. I want to know what they're talking about. And they were very critical of the goalkeeper with that ball. If you're looking at it from their perspective, do you blame him or do you blame Ballard?
I would blame Ballard first, because Ballard's in front of Jimenez at first. You know, Jimenez is the one that whose movement predicts the path of the ball. So I think Ballard's got to be the one to get there. That's a long way for the keeper to come. I mean, it's perfectly placed. That's the thing. The fact that we're talking whose fault is it when you've got replays and stuff to determine, and you're still not getting 100%. That tells you that ball was perfect, you know.
Okay.
So again, shout out.
I agree. I think that Ballard's attempt, like his plan, was to try and keep Raul Jimenez away from it.
Right.
His plan, you know, hindsight's a pretty horrible friend, but he should have gone towards the ball and tried to clear it.
Well, that was the argument that I was hearing too.
Yeah.
That he was more concerned about Raul.
I mean, I think Saturday, so Alex and I are going on Saturday evening to the Tottenham game.
Yep.
You know, their home record is wretched.
There's an opportunity, Matt. I'm telling you, there's an opportunity.
The fans will be, after yesterday, which was a humiliation, and then they're playing PSG midweek, and they've got Romero suspended. So, like, it will be flammable there, and we need to turn up with our Thomas Frank chants and our Chukwueze skills.
So I'm just going to share this with you guys because yesterday I decided just to put in Palhinha's name into X during this match. I'm talking about the Tottenham supporters saying that he doesn't deserve to play in the Premier League, that he shouldn't be, you know, I mean, they were just ripping him apart. So Matt, this goes to your idea. If I'm Marco, run at him with Josh King. Get him in the trouble, because I think that will change the match. That's actually a good point. That's a good point. Kamal, man of the match. Come on, Kamal.
I haven't heard your sound effects yet.
Okay. Well, I can play it. Wait a minute. No, I'm going to play it after you tell me who it is.
Okay. First, I just want to say Paulinho didn't have a great game. Glad you guys brought that up.
Okay.
And I'm really looking forward to shredding him, putting him through the onion shredder. That's going to be 2 onions in a week.
Okay.
You guys should have told me about it. I wanted to come see the Spurs game. Why didn't you tell me about that? I wanted to get the ticket.
No, last minute.
Okay.
I like
Come on, I'm waiting. Come on.
There's all those people with their Bentleys parked outside the gate, outside the ground. For me, I really like Wilson, the way he was running on things.
Okay.
But ultimately, I think I agree with Alex and Matt that the most polished, and also Gary, the most polished, who I like the way he spells Chikwueze. It's very cool.
Okay.
I thought the most polished professional performance was Chikwueze. He just didn't.
Okay.
It was so smooth. I'm waiting for the sound effects.
You got your sound effects, but if you didn't give me a name, it was this. Well, there you go.
Whose name would that have been? Everybody played so well, apparently.
No, that would have been for you if you said the team.
The team.
So, yeah, because that's what you
Russ,
do. Anyways,
Russ, who would you play for next Saturday? Who would you do in midfield, and who would you have on the wing?
Okay, so if it's me, it would be Berga, Iwobi, and King, and I would personally go with Chikwueze. Okay, I would, but I don't think I think he's going to go back to Kevin, but I would go with Chikwueze and Wilson. I think Chikwueze and Wilson could wreak havoc on Spurs and put them under pressure. And then if you do all that combination of you saying, if you have King running the way he is, I think you could do some damage, Matt.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit nervous, I have to say, about how good Wilson's going to be up against Jed Spence, because he's quite unusual in being a right-footed left back.
Yeah.
Which, if you're a left-footed right winger, is not great. But let's see how we go.
Would you be tempted? Would you be tempted to then?
My position is exactly yours. No, I would have Wilson and Chukwueze, but I think he'll pick Kevin.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
but I would attack Pedro Porro a lot. I think he's all fart and no poo.
Okay. Okay. Do you think, Matt? Before we go, do you think he will go back to Berger and Lukic?
No. I think he'll have Iwobi, and I think what he might do is play Berger and Lukic on the Tuesday afterwards against Man City at home.
Oh, okay.
Just because we need more of a shield there. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At that point, you got Foden and Doku dropping in, and so I think you need help. And I think probably the person to go there will be Kevin. So Iwobi will go to the left.
All right.
Lukic into the middle, and I think that feels right.
Good stuff. Come on, I'll give you the final word before we go. Final thoughts.
Why?
Why not? Wake up!
No, I think the best people on the pitch. I mean, I like the collective performance. I like the response, but I think it was our analysts, because today they scored more than one goal. Inside this podcast, I'm very pleased that Fulham played really well.
Good,
but I want to see some change. And bring on Tony Gold and bring on my brother. Let's see some change.
Okay. I will get the rough and the smooth together again. Okay, that's going to happen. I know Suhail's listening. We will get that together. Unfortunately, I let your brother know too late, and he couldn't meet up yesterday. But I'll get that taken care of, Kamal. And
we have a sound effect. Can we have a sound effect? Yeah.
You want a sound effect for that? Okay, wait a minute. How about this sound effect for your haircut? I disagree with you, brother. Okay.
Oh my lord.
Okay.
That's onion, man. That's very onion.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's onion. That's onion. Anyways, listen. Great show, guys. Again, thank you so much for joining me. But we do have to wrap this up. For the guys, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.